This is Elaine Jarvis, and I'm here with Omar Aljazairi, and we wanted to welcome you to a new project that we've started. It's called Project Protect Inmate, and we're sited here in Virginia, and we're trying to serve the Virginia population. We're trying to take care of a population that's incredibly underserved in our world, both from a spiritual standpoint, a financial standpoint, and really, I suppose, a political standpoint. So with those things said, Omar, you're the co-founder, and I would like to ask you what brought you to this project.
This entire project started with my younger brother Mustafa Aljazairi. In the process of talking about what they're doing to my brother, I come across a lot of other individuals that are also abused the same way my brother is being abused.
Would you do me a favor, and I'm going to back you up just a couple steps, sir. Would you tell me about your family and where y'all are from?
Yes, ma'am. So we're originally from Iraq.
Okay.
My family moved here when I was 7 years old.
Okay.
And my Mustafa was 3 years old. We grew up here. We went to school. We went to college. We graduated. And
didn't three of the siblings out of six go to medical school as well?
Yes, ma'am. So I went to medical school. I did 2 years medical school, graduated with 2 years. Me, my sister, Abrar, my brother Mohammed, we all graduated with 2 years of medicine. And I was studying for my medical exam before I got contracted as a civilian contractor in Iraq.
So, you went back to Iraq to serve in Iraq?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Would you mind telling me a little bit about your family's history in Iraq, if you don't mind?
So we grew up, I was never born in Iraq.
Mm-hmm.
I've never been in Iraq except when I worked in Iraq. Now when I talk about my civilian contract, we're civilian contractors. We're not military when we go into Iraq. We serve this country as a capacity as a civilian contractor. And the reason I got involved is because I grew up and what my dad, coming to this country, grew up, my dad talks about Iraq and how Iraq is a third world country and Saddam and everything that Saddam come to be. To us, Saddam is it's like he's a dictator. He's an evil person, and my dad left that part of the world, left that country because of the evil that Saddam brought into that country. So when I got an opportunity to serve, I took it and I went and served this country at that capacity.
Gotcha. So your dad's first name is Nofel, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And he, from what I recall from our prior conversations, he actually escaped Iraq, correct?
Yes.
And then he went to Syria.
Yes.
And then he had to escape Syria to come here as well, correct?
Yes, he brought us here, and we grew up knowing what goes on in Iraq, knowing what goes on in Syria, and how beautiful America is, and how we have a constitution, we have rights in this country, that this could never, what happened to my father, what happened to my family back in Iraq could never happen here, because we grew up being Americans, protected by something called a constitution, and your rights are protected. And we grew up believing in what America is, the values of being an American, that you have a constitution and you have rights.
That's where I really vibe and have always vibed with you. I've always been an American. I grew up here. I grew up in Maryland, and my parents were, I guess, second generation immigrants, as are so many of us. And I was raised with certain values. I think the first of those values was hard work. The second of those was probably being taught to be service-minded. And although when I was young, I was fiercely competitive. I could also be very selfish. And I learned through life to become more unselfish. But my path was, I played a lot of sports, and I was also totally an intellectual. So I went to University of Maryland undergrad, and then I went to William & Mary Law School. My dream when I went to law school was actually to become a constitutional law professor. As I've learned through life, you don't always get what you want. Instead, I practiced for several years in DC. Then I had 3 beautiful kids, and I was away from the law for more than 10 years. I was pursuing, I guess, my other first passion, which is writing. So I wrote several novels and then came back to the practice of law around 2017. So I think in total I've got about 14 years of experience as a lawyer, maybe a little more. But the beautiful thing for me is I opened up my own practice out here in the country, and I've had the honor to serve people in my community, but also to serve people all over Virginia and to protect their rights. I'm a plaintiff's lawyer, but I'm also, there's no way around this. I like to sue the government when it oversteps and when it violates the rights of individuals. I think that the greatness of America is in its Constitution, and in its people, in the benevolence and the good sense and the hard work of the people that live in this country. So I'm very much a patriot. I'm married to a military veteran who is retired now. He served in the Air Force as, he just calls himself a cop. I think he was a lot more, but I love everything about what America is meant to be. I'm not one of those that by any stretch of the American imagination is against cops. I love cops, but I do hold cops just like I hold priests to a higher standard, and that's that they ought to do their job to protect us. And that's where we came to meet, because I met your family outside of a courthouse where your mom was protesting. She was actually yelling and crying, and the human in me just stopped cold. And I stopped and started to talk to her, and she showed me pictures of your brother. Just so everyone knows, Mustafa Aljazairi was driving his car with his girlfriend and his girlfriend's daughter on April 5th. And they got in a terrible car accident. There's indications that the brakes were damaged. That's all in the police reports.
Yeah, the police inspected the vehicle, and the police mechanic inspected the vehicle, and he found out that the brakes, there's a problem with the brakes.
Hold on a second. There's a problem with the brakes. So just so everyone who's listening understands, Mustafa was actually arrested after being interrogated while he was so when he got in the accident, he was helicoptered out and he was unconscious and he was bleeding. He was concussed. The cops interviewed him at the hospital without reading him his Miranda rights, and you can it's very clear that he has no idea what's going on. He doesn't even know who the president is. But they spoke to him in a very coercive and misleading manner, and he never admitted to doing anything on purpose. He said that it was an accident, and he didn't know what happened. But the evidence that we will present to the public is that Mustafa braked, and there's skid marks at the
Skid
scene.
marks.
There's skid marks at the scene, right?
There's skid marks at the scene. The investigator. So, I want to be clear.
Yes.
There are body cams for all of this.
Okay.
And everything that I'm going to say on this podcast, there is body cams to support it. There is police report to support it.
But that being the case, we may have all this evidence, but there's certain things that I, for one, am under a protective order that I cannot discuss. So when I say the evidence will show this or the evidence will show that, I'm being very careful to comply with that protective order.
Yes, ma'am. And I'll tell you, the reason they're sealing all of it is because they know that they're violating my brother's rights. They know that my brother is innocent. They know that this is a vehicle accident that they've turned into something that it's not.
So I'm going to be the lawyer here, since I represent the family in a civil case, and I'm gonna say that we're not going to get into too much of a discussion about what we think about the criminal case, because anything that we say we're going to have to cut before we release it anyway. We're trying really hard to comply with the protective order that I've signed off on for this case. So I wanted to, if it's okay with you, just give our listeners a really brief summary of what happened and where we're at in not just the criminal case, but in the civil case that we brought against a number of the employees at the jail where he's being held. So if you don't mind, I'm just going to take a couple minutes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So Mustafa was arrested and transported to Prince William Manassas Regional Adult Detention Center, which is a big mouthful. From now on, we're just going to call it the jail. He was taken there on April 7th, and he was denied bail, not just once, but twice. So I want to be very clear. He is still in jail. He's still awaiting trial. He is what's called in the constitutional law a pre-trial detainee.
No, Elaine, he was denied bail because they lied about everything.
Like what? What did they lie about?
They lied about the statements that the investigator that talked to Mustafa on the phone.
Is that Robert Drum?
Robert Drum. He talked to Mustafa on the phone. Now, my other brother, we have a recording of that phone call conversation. And in that recording, when you listen to it, the investigator claimed that Mustafa told him, I was arguing with my girlfriend inside the vehicle. I was angry at my girlfriend inside the vehicle. Mustafa never said that. There's an audio recording. This investigator created a narrative.
Well, isn't there an entire dash cam?
There is a dash camera inside the vehicle that shows there is no argument inside the vehicle, that the whole entire thing is a vehicle accident.
How do you know there's a dash cam, by the way?
So my brother had a dash camera inside his vehicle since 2018. Now, this accident happened last year, April 4, 2023. My brother has a dash camera since 2018 because back in 2018, the police entered our house without a warrant, violated Mustafa's rights, violated our rights, entered our house without a warrant, and my brother ended up suing the police. Now,
whoa. Because I think people are going to have some questions about this. And I know I did.
Yes,
I know I did. So are you saying that there's some relationship between the police coming into your house without a warrant, right? And
yes,
arresting all of you for peacefully minding your own business?
So when this incident happened,
This is in 2018.
This is in 2018.
Okay.
I was serving in Iraq. I was on a contract. I was on my civilian contract in Iraq, and I hear that the police enter our house without a warrant, arrest all my family, and over a tow truck. A tow truck at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Was the tow truck coming for one of your cars?
So they come for one of Mustafa's car. Mustafa is telling the tow truck driver that I have a title to the car. This is my car. And I guess this guy is, we live in a small town where this tow truck company does all the police towing, and he has a relationship with the police. I don't know what's going on, to be honest with you. All I know is they show up on our property.
But does he have a right to take your brother's car?
No, man. My brother has a title to the vehicle.
Okay, so just to be clear, he has a clean title.
A clean title.
A clean title to his car.
Exactly. And he tells the guy, this is my car. The guy's not happy. The tow truck driver is not happy about this. He leaves the property. Next thing you know, the police show up at gunpoint, arrest everybody. So my brother ended up suing the police. And he has every right to sue the police. They entered our house on our property without a warrant.
So isn't it true that there's actually this lawsuit that you're talking about? This was in Stafford County,
Yes, ma'am.
and I confirmed by looking up the public records that the lawsuit was ongoing
Yes.
as of April 5th, 2023, when the vehicle accident occurred.
Yes, ma'am.
So what happened in the months prior?
Okay, the dash camera. Because my brother sued the police, they were constantly harassing my brother, profiling my brother. I had to cut my contract short and come home to see what's going on with my family. So in the process of my brother suing the police, he got a dash camera because he was constantly being harassed, being
He
pulled
got a
over.
dash camera because of the cops?
Yes, ma'am. And I have videos where the police pull my brother over for no reason, and they're coaching each other that this is Mustafa, this is the Aljazairi, he lives off of this street, he's being watched. What are you doing watching my brother? It became a personal vendetta. They have a grudge against my brother.
Can I ask you a couple questions for the record?
Yes, ma'am.
Does your brother have a record?
No, ma'am.
Has your brother ever been convicted of a crime?
No, ma'am. He has no criminal history. He has a small business, beautiful small business. He works really hard. As a matter of fact, I have him contracted with me at Quantica Marine Base.
Gotcha. So he worked for you, and you were serving the Marines for a number of years.
Yes, ma'am.
Couple of other questions, and please forgive me. I know your family is Muslim. I know that y'all are devout. So I ask this only so we can have it on the record. Is your brother a drug user?
My brother does not do drugs.
Okay.
My brother does not. He does not drink.
Okay.
He doesn't do drugs. I wouldn't have him contract with me at Quantico and give him a contractor ID under my company if he was drinking or does drugs.
Fair enough. And does your brother have a history of domestic abuse?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
What would you do to your brother if he ever hit a woman?
I have two sisters and a beautiful mother.
You'd have a conversation with him?
My brother is the sweetest, nicest person you'll ever run into.
That holds up with what?
Yes, ma'am. We're not raised that way.
Gotcha.
And what they're doing to my brother is there is a grudge because a Muslim man sued the police. In this country, my dad served in the government. We ended up, me and my other brother Muhammad, we did civilian contract overseas. So we do walk around with a chip on our shoulder. And I guess in this country, you can't be a Muslim thinking that you served this country, especially in the county that we live in.
What county do you live in?
We live in Stafford, and my brother has a business in Prince William County.
Got you. So all the events that we're talking about, if you've got a map, dear listener, and you look at Washington, D.C., if you draw a line straight down, kind of, sort of, on Route 95, you're going to come to Alexandria, and then if you keep going, you'll get to Stafford. It's before Fredericksburg. And so go back to, if you're mentally picturing all of this on a map, go back to DC and then draw a straight line that goes out west, and go about 20 to 25 miles, and then go south about 10 miles and you'll end up in Manassas. Or for those of you who are history buffs, the first Battle of Bull Run in the Civil War and the second Battle of Bull Run in the Civil War. So that's where all of this that has happened in this case has occurred.
No, uniquely, investigator Robert Drum lives in Fredericksburg. For him to go to where the police station is, he's passing by our county every single day.
Going through Stafford.
Now, you want to tell me that what the police are doing and profiling my brother, that this is not carrying over to this investigator that somehow deemed my brother guilty on the first minute of the vehicle accident? How do you know this is a vehicle? How do you know he did it on purpose? Why
that's
that he did it on purpose?
That's some of the absurdity here, folks. The cops have not investigated anyone else. The cops did not look at any other possibilities. Mustafa was the number one suspect. Now, he was the driver of the car. At first, they were certain that he was on drugs or drinking, weren't they?
He said, and one of the police officer, he says he's a known drug user. What do you mean he's a known drug user?
Never been arrested.
Never been arrested.
Never been convicted.
Never been he has clean criminal history. He has no criminal history. You label my brother. He's in a coma. He's on the floor in front of the vehicle, and EMT paramedics are attending to him, and then one of the police officers, he's a known drug user. Why are you painting my brother as a known drug user? There's a dash camera inside the vehicle. They're not interested in looking at that dash camera. As a matter of fact, one of the police officers, Officer Mason, says, "Oh, the camera is cut. The wire is cut." One of the police
Omar, I'm gonna back you off a little bit,
Yes,
because
Yes,
we do need to be careful about what's on the protective order. So if we were in court, I would say, Your Honor, motion to strike.
Yes, ma'am.
But I think it's completely fair for me to ask you, because the family has obtained Mustafa's medical records. So this is fair game. Did the police have your brother's blood tested?
The police has my blood tested.
And before we go on,
Yes, ma'am.
what was that test result?
No alcohol, no drugs, and see every time they
No alcohol,
no
no
alcohol,
drugs.
no drugs.
Okay.
Okay, and every time and you see the police, how they're approaching this accident, how they're approaching my brother. They see that there is no blood, no alcohol, and they brush her off like it's nothing.
Mm-hmm.
The police mechanic inspect and find there's a brake failure. Now Mustafa got the vehicle to drop from 53, which is speed limit, to 35. There is brake, but there is no complete brakes. When he hit the brake, so for Quantico, for my company at Quantico, I'm a mechanic. I did mechanic work for the Marines. So I know a lot about cars. Now, Mustafa has brakes, but he doesn't have complete brakes. He got the vehicle to drop from 53, which is speed limit, to 35. Now, when he hits the brake, it goes all the way to the floor and becomes spongy. The brakes become spongy. He runs out of roads, and he couldn't get the vehicle to a complete stop. Now, the police mechanic, inspect the vehicle, and he finds one of the calipers, there's brake failure.
So let me ask you a couple questions. I am going to assume that you know this information through means that are independent
They're
from
already
protective
public.
order.
Yeah, they're already public.
Gotcha.
At this point, there's most of the information that we talk about here is they're already public.
Got you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you've testified or analyzed some of what happened at the accident, and I will say that Mustafa's primary criminal lawyer, Blake Weiner, has filed a number of motions to dismiss the government's case and has made all these allegations that we're discussing public. So I'm just trying to watch our back and make sure that we don't run afoul of any protective orders. So to kind of summarize, if possible, the position that we're in now, we have a criminal case. The case is going to trial on December 2nd. In the meantime, we have a number of motions to dismiss for various alleged violations of Mustafa's constitutional rights, as well as police misconduct. We have motions to dismiss that are supposed to be heard October 31st in Prince William Circuit Court. But in the meantime, that's not what really got you to want to form Project Protect Inmate, is it?
Yes, ma'am.
Hold on a second. Let me ask that.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
So what got me into doing everything that I'm doing with Project Protect Inmate is that we were patiently waiting for the legal system to bring my brother justice. We believe in the Constitution. We believe in everything that America comes. That we grew up here. We believe in America. We believe that we have rights, and we believe that we have a Constitution. Even though you have a police officer that take the badge and the uniform and think he can do whatever he wants, we believe that there is a Constitution, there's rights, and there's a legal system that will protect my brother from these bad police officers. Now, I'm not saying every police officer is bad. That's not what I'm saying here. I had the pleasure of meeting your husband.
Thank you.
And when I first met your husband, I was so excited to tell him, I'm like, sir, when I got back from overseas, I started a company for a Quantico Marine base, and I built this company where I have 4 Marine military police officers working in this company that I train and I have them serve their fellow Marines. And I'm not here saying every police officer is bad. Most of the police are serving this community, they're from this community, and they do their best. They do their job. They put their life on the line every single day. Now, but there are police officers that are misusing that badge and uniform.
Well, how are they misusing it as it applies to Mustafa?
Yes, ma'am.
Since he's been arrested and locked up at the jail.
I'll give you an example. The motion to dismiss by Mustafa's criminal lawyer, Blake Weiner. In one of the motions, Blake Weiner says, and he has evidence to back this up, that the police department, investigator Robert Drum, took my brother's dash camera and muted the audio on this dash camera.
Either muted it or destroyed it, right?
You know, this is exculpatory evidence. Now, for the past 18 months, they said that the dash camera doesn't have audio. Now, there is evidence that this dash camera does have audio, and the fact when you see this is a dash camera out of Best Buy. It's the most expensive dash camera. It's a Rexon dash camera, and it has a feature. The feature in this dash camera, either the audio is turned on or off. Now, the police department, in their police reports, they say that the dash camera audio was on. Now, when you contact Rexon, they tell you if the audio is on, that means this dash camera 100% has audio.
So, didn't the police come up with this very strange theory?
They say the dash camera doesn't have an audio.
No, but didn't they come up with this very strange theory based on the audio not working, where they allege that Mustafa was arguing with Dorothy prior to the accident?
And they're getting a lip reader. They went on NBC4. They said
Well, didn't they release like a little clip of the video warning this is going to be disturbing, and then they released it, right?
And there's no argument.
No.
When you watch the dash camera, she's holding his hands, bracing for impact.
Yes.
And you see that Mustafa is tensed up. Like they cut what they did. They've cut this dash camera.
Gotcha.
Now, Mustafa, you can see him embracing for impact, focused on how to get out of this accident. And
well, he's like weaving between different cars, right?
And then on the dash camera, it shows that he avoided the first vehicle, he avoided the second vehicle, he avoided the third vehicle, and the vehicle T-boned him. He did everything he hit the brake. There are skid marks on the road. They say there are no skid marks, but I have proof that there are skid marks. I have documentation there. I have pictures, video and pictures that there are skid marks. That he did everything he can to avoid a vehicle accident. He avoided. He tried to get back into traffic. A vehicle blocks him off. He hits the brake failed. There are skid marks. He avoids the first vehicle coming his way, the second vehicle, and it's on dash camera. Now, the police department cut that audio. There is audio in this dash camera,
okay.
And there's evidence to show that for the past 18 months, they claimed that there is no audio, and they said the audio, by the way, this is exculpatory evidence.
Well, it's exculpatory because they said that the reason that Mustafa supposedly got into the accident is he purposely wanted to get into an accident. Mind you, he wasn't even wearing a seatbelt when it happened, and he braked. But they said the reason that he got into the accident is because he was a domestic abuser who was having an argument with Dorothy, and therefore he purposely crashed into oncoming traffic on the other side of the road after that. I mean, it's kind of a crazy story, right?
Exactly. They paint the story. They paint him as a drug user, as a domestic abuser.
Liar, lies.
Exactly. All of it is lies. Mustafa has no criminal history. Mustafa, by the way, I have the Google, it's one thing to sit here, it's a miracle that I can sit here and tell you, it's one thing if I was telling you, not only that I tell you, my brother would never do something like this. I know my brother, I love my brother, but it's a miracle that I don't have to sit here as a brother that loves his brother.
Sure.
I have the Google Nest inside the apartment. I have days on days of Google Nest that shows that my brother loved his family.
And that they were peaceful, that he took care of the kids, he took care of Dorothy. So like you said, you've got all this exculpatory evidence.
They don't want to look at it.
Got you.
They don't want to look at the brake giving out. the police inspector is inspecting the mechanic for the police department, is inspecting the vehicle. He finds brake failure, and it's not good enough for the investigator. He brushes it off. There is Google Nest inside the apartment that shows my brother loves his family. It's not good enough for the investigator. He brushes it off. There is a dash camera that shows they're not arguing, and they're just driving down the street and an accident happened. It's not good enough for this investigator. I'll tell you what this is. This is about a grudge that they have against this Muslim person, Mustafa, that walks around with a chip on his shoulder that his family served this country. And then in this country, and unfortunately, they want to tell you that you can't be a Muslim person, serve in this country, with a chip on your shoulder, walk around in this community, and if the police violate you, you're gonna hold them accountable by law. They want to tell you that you can't. But I'm here to tell them that we are in America, that America every day, I'll tell you, man, for the past 18 months, every day when we go out and protest, I have a conversation, I have a conversation with, when I'm protesting. I have a giant bullhorn, and I have a conversation with the sheriff. And I tell the sheriff, you're a sheriff for 20 years. You have a badge and a uniform, and you've held that badge and uniform for 20 years. But you're misusing that badge and uniform. And every day, my conversation with the sheriff is that we are in America, that I am an American, I'm a human being, and they want to tell you that you're not an American, the Constitution does not exist, you do not have rights, and they want to convince you that this is the reality. And every day for the past 18 months, we've been in a consistent fight to tell these individuals that are misusing that badge and uniform that we are in America, that we do have rights.
Well, let me ask you something, Omar.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm not sure if this is gonna make you chuckle or not. So, how have they treated Mustafa over the past 18 months?
I'll tell you, this program that I started with, Project Protect Inmate, came from what they're doing to my brother.
What are they doing to your brother?
Then they have my brother in solitary confinement for 17 months.
Wait, whoa. So you're talking about someone that's not been convicted of a crime, and he's been held in solitary confinement for 17 months? I mean, this isn't a gang member. This isn't a terrorist. He's been in solitary confinement for 17 months.
Why is my brother in solitary confinement? 17 months of solitary confinement. And
is that the worst of it?
No.
Well, so
this is the least of it.
This is the least of it. So the least of our problems is that Mustafa's been held in solitary confinement for more than 500 days. Please do tell.
I'll tell you, ma'am. In the process of us coming forward, we have evidence. We're not just saying things that without evidence. It's one thing if I was saying my brother didn't do this on purpose, blah blah blah. I have evidence that they falsified my brother's police report. I have evidence that this whole entire thing is a tragic vehicle accident. I have evidence that this investigator, Robert Drum, lied about my brother.
Okay, you got evidence about what happened to get him in jail.
Now, yes ma'am, in the process of us peacefully talking about what they're doing to my brother, they beat my brother inside the jail, and they sexually assaulted Mustafa. Now,
when you say that they beat Mustafa, when?
Yes, ma'am. On May 25th, 2023.
May 24th, I believe. I'm gonna fact check you. May 24th, 2023. I'm just gonna list all the dates because I have memorized. In the process of working with the Aljazaris, I've become a complete nerd on their case, which is my job. So I've got all the dates, I think, in my head. They disrespected and destroyed, or attempted to destroy, his religious belongings on April 5th, 2024. And then on April 17th, 2024, they beat him. On April 19th, 2024, they beat him again. So we have these incidents of beatings. We also found out, and this coheres with what they do to other inmates, is after beating Mustafa, they hid him away for days in solitary confinement. and didn't so much as deny him medical treatment as just flat out neglect it to even offer it. I think after the first beating, they gave him an ice pack or 2 or 3, but that was it. He was severely beaten. What the evidence has shown and what other inmates have testified to is he lost more than a pint of blood. That was the May 24th, 2023 beating. The evidence of that is out there, and even though we're under a protective order, it is absolutely fair game to say that the evidence will show this. The evidence is there. We just need the jail to release the evidence. Secondly, he's been in that solitary confinement with the lights on for 500 days. That's insane. I don't want to even dwell on that, because I think we as Americans understand that that's how we treat people in Guantanamo Bay. It's not how we treat people in America. So then there's these additional beatings in April. Now, we think we know why he was beaten in April, right? It had something to do with his bond hearing?
Yes, ma'am. Initially, when Mustafa was beaten up on May 24th, 25th.
24th, dear.
Yes, ma'am. We were patiently waiting for this legal system to play out, that we have evidence that Mustafa, this whole entire thing is a vehicle accident, and this investigator lied about everything. Now, we get a call. We're coming forward. There's evidence that we have that we're going to make public. Now, in the process of us making this information public, we hear that Mustafa was beaten up by a correctional officer, sexually assaulted, and denied medical. Now, what are they doing to my brother? One, they have him in solitary confinement, and then you have Correctional Officer Suda, Correctional Officer Walensky, Correctional Officer Sergeant Daniels, Correctional Officer Tipton, and among other officers, they go in. 6 correctional officers enter as a group, rush into my brother's cell, beat him, handcuff him behind his back, sexually assault him, and take him out. Now, this is confirmed by the FBI. The FBI says Mustafa was carried unconscious from one cell into another cell. It's one thing to say that the FBI said it. It's another thing when I see my brother's video. I saw a correctional officer go into my brother's cell, rush into my brother's cell, beat him, handcuff him, and then carry him out. Why is his pants is all the way down, and they're carrying him, handcuffed behind his back, 6 correctional officer unconscious into another cell.
So they beat him after they carried him downstairs. They took him down to cell number 1.
Yes, ma'am.
And that's where Mustafa says that he was beaten and sexually assaulted,
yes,
correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Beaten more.
Yes, ma'am. And then they strip him naked completely.
Why did they do that, by the way? Because they did that to Juan Campos, didn't they?
Yes, ma'am. So
Juan Campos is another inmate that has died recently while under care or custody at the jail.
Yes, ma'am. So this what happened to my brother. And I start finding out about what they were doing to other people. This is a common practice at Prince William County Adult Detention Center. You have correctional officers, for whatever reason, they don't have self-control. They don't know how to deal with individuals. That they beat an inmate, and then when they lose control and then beat up an inmate a little bit too much, they cover it up by taking an inmate. You take that inmate, you strip him naked, you throw him in a cell, and you cut off the water supply, no toilet paper, and you leave him in there for a good 4 or 5 hours. 4 or 5 days.
4 or 5 days.
4 or 5
naked?
days. Now, yeah, completely naked, no toilet paper, no water, they shut off the water, and then they have these mental health individuals that will, after 4 or 5 days, they will show up and do an assessment on you. And what do you think is going to happen to an individual that's left in a cell completely naked with no toilet paper and no water supply?
They're going to be raving.
They're going to be shitting everywhere. And then you have a mental health individual that will assess, yep, this person is incompetent, this person is psychotic, and they will write you off as incompetent for Commonwealth Amy Ashworth to prosecute however she sees fit. This is a common practice at Prince William County, and I've managed to document multiple inmates that this is happening to. And
Okay, so you say multiple inmates that this has happened to. Do you have names?
Emmanuel Logan,
Okay,
Isaac Travis,
Emmanuel Bogan, Isaac Travis,
Rodney Ward. I have a list of inmates, phone call recordings.
Don't forget Compost. Juan
Compost.
Sosa.
Then I have a list of these inmates, and I managed to be able to talk to these inmates because when they beat my brother and they sexually assaulted Mustafa, I couldn't take it anymore. So what I did, I literally just went on Amazon. I bought the biggest bullhorn you can get, and I stood in front of the court peacefully on public property, exercising my First Amendment and talking about. I don't know what else I could have done. You know, what I did, I talked about what they're doing to my brother. I don't know who else to talk to. You know, you get your brother beaten up, sexually assaulted when you have evidence that he's innocent. So I went in front of the courthouse and I would talk about what they're doing to my brother. And in the process, something happened that normally doesn't happen. An environment was created where other families start coming out and start sharing my cell phone number with inmates inside the jail. And those inmates started sharing it with other inmates.
How many inmates would you estimate that you've spoken to over the past year?
Ma'am, I have over 14 inmates. I have over 14 inmates that came forward and talk about abuse similar to what my brother is going through, where they're getting beaten up, sexually assaulted, stripped naked, denied medical, and they're just left to deteriorate inside the jail facility. And
are any of these inmates like Mustafa pretrial detainees?
They're all pretrial detainees, ma'am.
Okay.
And they're all pretrial detainees. But according to this jail, they deprive you of your day in court. You have Robert Reed. He died inside the jail facility. Juan Campos, 18-year-old Juan Campos, early as this year, March 27, he died inside this jail, and they killed him. And they covered this up because you can't access the cameras. No one will know anything on the outside. They will gaslight you and tell you nothing happened. An 18-year-old doesn't just die out of a heart attack. They say that our coroner report indicate that this inmate died out of a heart attack. Well, his mom has pictures of her son's face bashed in from a beating.
I've seen the pictures. I can verify that.
And this is similar to Mohammed Ikram Sherdil. Mohammed Ikram Sherdil, his poor mother is crying over her son.
He was killed in 2021, correct?
Yes, ma'am. 2021. February of 2021. And
was he also beaten up? And do we get to see any pictures of him?
I have his pictures. His poor mother supplied me with his picture, and she wants justice for her son.
She also just wants to know
closure.
What happened? Why did he die?
And that poor mother is being gaslighted. It's not given an answer by Sheriff Glen Hill, Commonwealth Amy Ashworth. These individuals, Commonwealth Amy Ashworth, Chief of Police, Chief Newsham with Prince William County, Sheriff Glen Hill. These individuals, the reason I say their name is one, because they're entrusted to protect this community. But they're entrusted to protect this community not in just their Commonwealth position with Amy Ashworth, the Sheriff Glen Hill, Chief of Police, Peter Newsham. These individuals carry a position as jail board members. Now, jail board members are the highest authority in Prince William County that govern Prince William County Adult Detention Center, the jail. This jail is a private entity. It doesn't fall under Department of Corrections. They have something called a jail board members. They're the highest authority that protect and safeguard the inmates inside this jail. Now, well, on their watch, you have 7 dead inmates. You have my brother Mustafa, who is being and sexually assaulted, and now to this day is being denied medical. I saw a video where Mustafa is carried unconscious from one cell into another cell. And then when you read the police report, the jail police report, it says they all 6 correctional officers slipped on water, tripped over each other, slipped Mustafa, and that's how Mustafa is good to go. Well, Mustafa is unconscious, carried unconscious from one, and you want to tell me that he doesn't have a head trauma, he doesn't have internal injuries? My brother has a compounded fractures, rectal bleeding, and to this day he's deteriorating. and they're scared that my brother is gonna make it to. We want my brother to make it to trial.
Well, that's the main thing that we're looking for. Is today is October 13th. We want to keep Mustafa alive until December 2nd, so that he can stand trial. So there's something else that you said that I wanted to touch on, because it's something that's been bothering me ever since I've been involved in the case. Right now, the status of our civil lawsuit is we filed in the Eastern District of Virginia against the jail board, against the adult detention center, against the many officers that used excess force, or should I just say in colloquial terms, beat the crap out of Mustafa. And as usual, about 4 different big law firms immediately got involved, and they filed motions to dismiss. And one of the grounds that they're using to try to dismiss our lawsuit is they say that the adult detention center is not an entity that can be sued under Virginia law. And they further say that the adult detention center is not at all an entity other than being a building. Now, I walked around the building. It's like a whole block, and it is definitely a building. But what really makes me kind of nuts here is the law in Virginia and in the Fourth Circuit, which houses Virginia on a federal level, does seem to say that a prisoner cannot sue a regional jail, because regional jails somehow put in a loophole so that they can be operated as private jails, receiving 97 to 98% of their funding from the county, the city, and supposedly the state. But what the case law says is, if we get a judgment against the adult detention center, the state has to pay for it, and therefore the 11th Amendment prohibits us from being able to sue them. I think that's crazy. The concept that you can take on a governmental function of running a jail and then say somehow you're immune from being sued for violating a pretrial detainee's constitutional rights is absurd. It's unconstitutional. And we're not going to bend over and just take it. We think we have a very strong argument that anyone who is accepting money from the government and doing governmental functions is an entity that can be and should be sued. So we are going to continue to sue them, and we're going to continue to fight this out in federal court. We're not giving up on that, because it's not just about freeing Mustafa. It's about protecting the other inmates that are in the Prince William Regional Jail, but also in regional jails all over Virginia. So that's one thing, y'all, is we don't agree that we can't sue the jail. In the meantime, we're suing the official officers, and we're coming at them asking court of law to find that they violated Mustafa, not just as a human, but as an American citizen with constitutional rights that say that he should be free, of being punished at all while he's a pretrial detainee. And we're not going to stop. We're going to come and keep coming. The thing is, we're coming at really big entities. We're coming at big law firms. We're coming at people that have more money than well, I was going to say more money than God, but I'm sort of hoping and thinking that God's kind of rich, but certainly more money than we have. And that's one of the reasons that we wanted to start Project Protect Inmate. Because what happens is say you're a upper middle class family, which I think is a fair assessment of the Aljaziris, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So far the Aljaziris have paid, is it $80,000 in legal fees?
Just about, yes, ma'am.
Just
yes,
about.
Ma'am. I can tell you that the money that was supposed to go into the company that I had running for taking care of the Marines home base.
You're about to buy a tow truck?
Oh, yes, ma'am. I was supposed to buy a tow truck so my company can take stage 2 into doing what we do for the Marines, and a tragic vehicle accident happened. So instead of taking that money and investing it in my company, I gave it to Casey Stevens, the lawyer, the original lawyer. That stole our money. If we found out that he's friends with this investigator, is in cahoots with this investigator. As a matter of fact, this is not, I have video evidence that he's conspiring with the investigator with the prosecutor saying Mustafa is guilty. Why do you take my money? Why did you take my money? Why are you representing Mustafa if you think Mustafa is guilty?
So Omar,
Yes, ma'am.
trying to keep you on focus.
Yes, ma'am.
So $80,000 total,
Yes, ma'am.
and some of that was your own money. In fact, it sounds
Yes, ma'am.
like you probably wrote a check for $35,000 or $40,000.
$50,000.
$50,000, and then the rest of the family chipped in at least another $30,000. So right, so y'all hired one attorney, and I think it's fair to say that this first attorney did not do right by the family, but you hired another attorney, Blake Weiner.
This attorney, not only that he stole our money, but he kept evidence from showing. The reason that Mustafa was denied bond, one, the police officers were lying, but we gave the evidence to this lawyer, and we gave him the home videos, we gave him the audio of the falsified police report. Nothing made it to the judge.
So is he somehow a dirty lawyer?
Of course, 100%. And
How?
I have evidence.
But
I have
why?
evidence. Well, apparently, when you look this lawyer up, Casey Stevens, in 2016, he got a DUI and fled the scene, and he only got 90 days suspended. Let me get a DUI.
He didn't lose his bar license?
No, ma'am. 90 day. He only got 90 days suspended. Now get this: the same crash investigator that was in 2016 is the same one today falsifying my brother's police report.
Wait, the same investigator from 2016, or
Robert Drum.
or you mean 2020?
In 2016, this
Okay.
lawyer
Gotcha.
got in a vehicle.
Oh, I got you. So
Yeah.
2016 was when this lawyer, Casey Stevens, got arrested for fleeing the scene.
Yes, ma'am. A DUI, the whole 9 yards. Now, the crash investigator happened to be Robert Drum. How is it that the same investigator we have the same investigator today, and he's protecting this investigator?
Oh, that's crazy.
Now, every time I think about it, when this happened, me and my brother Muhammad, we live in Stafford, we went to Prince William County, and we went to the first law office like next to the courthouse, thinking that if it's next to the courthouse, this is a good lawyer. And they tell us, tonight we're gonna have a lawyer call you. And
Who says that?
that law firm, that law firm that we went to, that's next to the courthouse, we told them about everything that's happening, and they said, tonight we're gonna have a lawyer call you. We got a call from Casey Stevens. Now, and he tells me verbatim, your brother is coming out. He heard the whole thing. He said, this is a vehicle accident taken out of context. Okay, and your brother is coming home, and I'm gonna have him home like within the bond hearing. Like by the bond hearing, I'm gonna have him home.
When was the bond hearing?
I think it was okay. So the bond hearing was supposed to be scheduled like immediately,
Okay.
right? And then immediately it got dragged out. Next thing you know, this lawyer is talking about, I don't have this, I don't have that. But so he kept on dragging this whole thing. In the meantime, we're just we're just fine. Like we're just looking at the whole thing, and we're like,
Well, you probably at that point.
we're in shock.
Of course, you're in shock, and
Most
people trust their lawyers.
We trusted this lawyer, and he said, I need $45,000 up front. Now,
After saying, I'll have them out in a day.
yeah, my mom is crying in the background.
Of course.
My mom is like, she's stressed out. She's, and we don't know what's going on. We're like, this lawyer sounds like a good lawyer, but he wants $45,000 out. So I literally took whatever I've got, and I gave it to him.
Okay. So what did he do for your brother?
Nothing. As a matter of fact, he's the reason. He's partly one of the main reasons why my brother is still in jail. Every bond hearing that my brother went to, the evidence doesn't seem to show up to the judge. That we have an audio where the investigator falsified my brother's statement. He falsified the warrant. There is home video that shows my brother loves his family. There's a dash camera that shows the whole entire thing is a vehicle accident. But what do you do when the lawyer tells you, I'm going to present the evidence, and come bond hearing, the evidence doesn't make it to the judge. The judge has no idea everything
Well, what
is
does
going.
he do at the bond hearing?
He conceals the evidence.
Okay.
And then afterward, when we talk to him about it,
When was the bond hearing? Do you remember? Like the month?
I don't exactly remember, but it's in my notes. I remember.
Was it within a couple months of when
Yes, ma'am, a
Mustafa
couple of
got
months.
arrested?
Yes,
So
ma'am.
we're thinking like May or June of 2023.
May or June, yes ma'am, May or June. immediately after the bond hearing.
What happened at the bond hearing?
The audio of the falsified police report doesn't make it to the judge. Get this. The lawyer, Casey Stevens, tells my brother Muhammad, I'm gonna call you to the bench and you're gonna authenticate this audio and then I'm gonna play the audio to the judge.
Okay.
Well, so he plays the wrong portion where it doesn't show the police report has been falsified. Does that make sense?
That's
he
stupid.
tells you he's gonna play it to the judge and he plays like something that's irrelevant.
That's stupid.
Even the judge says, well, like what is this show? Like what is this? Like we agreed that you're gonna play the audio, this portion of the audio where Mustafa says like.
Okay, so purposely incompetent. It sounds like. What else happened at the bond hearing? Did he get bond?
No.
Why? What was the judge's reasoning?
Casey Stevens doesn't show. What did he? He doesn't play the home videos. Two things. The home videos. The prosecutor at that point, Sarah Sami, is arguing that Mustafa is abusive to the kids, to his girlfriend, and
Based on what? Does she
on-
introduce any evidence?
No evidence. She proffers everything. Proffer is, I'm going to say something without evidence, and I'm just going to tell you, Judge, this is what happened. Well, we have the evidence to show that Mustafa loves his family. This is a Google nest inside the apartment.
Okay, so the prosecutor proffers some evidence.
Yeah.
You say it's not true. Then what does the judge say? What does Casey Stevens say? What does he do?
Nothing. He gives Mustafa to the prosecution on silver platter. What do you do? Like, he doesn't present anything. As a matter of fact, Mustafa is not even an American citizen, according to Casey Stevens. And then when we ask Casey Stevens, we're like, you never said Mustafa is a graduate out of college. He graduated college. You never said Mustafa is an American. The judge, Sarah Sami says, Your Honor, this is he's not an American citizen.
What?
She said he's not. Sarah Sami said Mustafa is not an American citizen. He's from Iraq. It's a flat lie. And Casey Stevens, knowingly, he knows he doesn't stop her. He doesn't push back on anything. And then when we went afterward, after the bond,
I'm gonna ask you a question because something just came into my mind. So
he takes us out of the office when we're talking to him about it.
I hear you, and I hate to take us away from Casey for a second, but something just came to my mind. So May 24th, 2023 was probably right around the time of the bond hearing, right?
It was right before the bond hearing. It was the time that we were asking for the dash camera. We were telling Casey Stevens is telling us, well, the prosecutor doesn't have to release the body cam, and I can't file for a motion until the prosecutor gives you the body cam.
That's
I would
stupid.
I would like, sir, I'm going to be really honest with you. I have the audio of the phone call conversation between Mustafa and this investigator. And on the audio, this investigator lied about my brother's statements. I'm going to go on YouTube and I'm going to publicize this information. Immediately, within a week, my brother gets beaten up and sexually assaulted and denied medical inside the jail.
Well, it kind of stands to reason then. So at least we know that there's a connection between the May 24th, 2023 beating and the original investigation where they basically tried to frame Mustafa, right?
And then after,
right?
yes, 100%.
Okay.
And then this lawyer mysteriously on the same day that Mustafa is getting beaten up and sexually assaulted, texts my brother Muhammad, telling him at 3 o'clock in the morning, Muhammad, I'm not going to be available for the rest of the day.
Well, I'm going to kind of laugh right now because I've never texted a client after midnight. Certainly not at 3 a.m. First of all, it's kind of creepy, inappropriate, weird. But anyway, there's a lot there that's weird. But I wanted to come back to.
It gets worse. Worse.
I know. I wanted to come back though to, if it's okay,
Yes, ma'am.
to the money and the amount of money that the normal family has. So I know that you had to come up with a retainer for Mr. Weiner. You've paid me an initial retainer to undertake the case. But we're kind of at the point where we're financially tapped, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And I was thinking about that the other day. I was trying to go to bed at night, and a lot of times when I'm trying to go to bed, I think of my clients. And I was thinking about Mustafa, and I was thinking about you and your family. And then I was thinking, oh my God, what would happen if one of my sons ever got arrested? And what would happen if one of my sons ever got accused of a crime? Well, the first thing that would happen after I freaked out and called my husband is I'd probably call my parents and ask for money. I mean, let's just be honest. My parents, that would be step number one. And I would probably explain to my parents what I knew, and what I didn't know. But I'd ask for like an initial amount of money. Then I would liquidate everything I had. I would sell off a few cars. We have, you know, like a lot of upper middle class families, we have more than we need. I'd tell my husband, sell all your guns, and he would say no. It goes on. But anyways, I'd be able to come up with $25,000 overnight probably. I'd probably be able to come up with another $25,000 after a week. And then things get a little bit tight. I've refinanced the house. We've got about, like most Americans, we probably have $200,000 or $300,000 of equity, but it takes time. And this is about one of the worst times to refinance your house. Interest rates suck. We have a 3% veterans loan on our current house. So if we had to take out, say, $50,000, it would take, I would go through Navy Fed. I played this out in my head. I'd go through Navy Fed and I'd take out at least 50. I'd probably get a revolving HELOC for $150,000. Let's say I get to the $80,000 or $100,000 mark. Well, I'm going to be honest. Then I'm starting to make some oxygen decisions because I have 3 kids, 2 are in college and 1's in law school. I also have a legal practice. So at a certain point, if I'm completely out of capital and something happens to the business, so I played it out in my head. I'm like, at a certain point, maybe we could come up with $100,000. Maybe with digging in, or if I were completely sure my son was innocent and that sort of thing, I'd probably have a longer conversation with my parents, my brother, the people that you go to when you're in need. But at a certain point, we'd run out of money. And that's kind of where the Aljazairi family is. That's kind of where Jarvis Law is insofar as I'm representing you all. But it's also where a lot of our inmates are. Now, a lot of our inmates that we're trying to protect are not as fortunate as we are, right?
Yes, ma'am.
I mean,
yes, ma'am. And they bet on the fact that they profile this community, and they know this community doesn't have the money, doesn't have the means.
Well, you
to
say
go after
this.
them.
You say this community, Omar. Which community specifically?
I talk about the community that works 9 to 5 or have a small business.
Okay.
And
So the middle class. So let's say a middle class person in Prince William. Prince William for I've looked this up, so it's one of those statistics. I think the median household income in Prince William is probably about $80,000, right? So if you're a couple and you've got 2 kids and you're making $80,000 a year, how much do you have in savings by the age 50? What do you think?
I'll give you a better example,
Okay.
a practical example.
Okay.
Let's talk about Juan Campos.
Okay.
18-year-old Juan Campos.
Got you.
Now, this is a kid that was found unresponsive this year, March 27th.
Okay.
Now, they say unresponsive. They found him in a cell unresponsive. Well, there's multiple inmates that came forward that testified that this inmate was killed inside the jail. The coroner report is ridiculous. It says that this kid had a heart attack 8 days into his incarceration. Now,
that's funky. I mean, that's one thing if he was an athlete. The only 18-year-olds that die of heart attacks are the ones that get cardiomyopathy. That's where they've got the thickening of the heart muscle. And you've heard those stories, the tremendous athletes that just kill over and die on the basketball court or the football field. But they're always in the middle of performing at extreme exertion when they have that heart attack. Juan Campos, not the case at all. He was in his prison cell.
I'll tell you, when the mom says I have pictures of my son's face bashed in from a beating, and the coroner report says a heart attack, something
It's funky.
doesn't add up.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Well, let's talk about his family and the outcome of this 18-year-old and his family. Right now, the family cannot FOIA request. They can FOIA, but they're not going to get the body cam when their son got arrested. Now, how is it to live in a county that your son gets arrested gets
They
killed.
blocked that with a FOIA request?
They denied the FOIA.
What about, you were telling me about a family, I think it was a April 2023 case in Prince William.
Yes, ma'am.
And it was a situation where the community claims that the cops like opened up on the car and shot it up like 50 times or something crazy like that.
Yes.
And the family keeps asking for that video, right?
Yes, ma'am. Amy Ashworth refused to release that video. There's a
Why not? I mean, what possible reason is there not to release body cams?
There is the police killed this individual, a black man and a black woman in a vehicle. They killed these individuals. 50 bullets is shot with an AR-15 from the police at this vehicle, and it's a horrific.
That's
video
like when they shot up Bonnie and Clyde, man.
They shoot this vehicle. They drag the male subject and the female subject by hand. They drag them, yank them out like they're a piece of trash.
Them?
After shooting them, put them 50 bullets in their body. They pull them out. They pull them out like a piece of trash. Pulled out, throw them out of the car. They drag them, pull them out of the car, and then you see one of the police officers that with an AR-15 laughing at the whole situation.
That's sick.
Now, you want to tell me why Amy Ashworth doesn't want to release that video? She doesn't want to release that video because there's going to be public outrage, and our police officers, there's something wrong here.
That's crazy. How about something different? How about if we find out when we're in charge and in a position of authority that one of our protectors has become a sick psychopathic killer, that we get him off the job and we get him off the streets and we take the gun out of his hand, right?
The head prosecutor for the whole county.
Gotcha.
And instead of protecting this community, instead she protects those specific police officers that are misusing that badge to hold an AR-15, and you're laughing at someone, a man and a woman that you just put 50 bullets in, and your other police officer are playing with this body. They're toying with this body. They're all laughing. They're happy. Like, what are you doing to this community?
So we want that.
That could be someone's father.
We want that.
That could be someone's brother.
Cam.
We want that body cam.
We want that body cam. And that's what we're going to be talking about here at Project Protect Inmate. We're going to talk about a few things. One of those is we want that body cam. The second thing is we want to be here to help. We want to be able to get funding so that we can provide legal support, so that we can provide medical support, so that we can provide all kinds of much needed support to the prisoners that are being held here in Virginia, which is where we're starting our mission. I want to let Omar have the last word.
I'll tell you, they're destroying this country. They're not only destroying this community, but they're destroying this country. Part of me taking a contract overseas as a civilian is because I believed in America. I grew up American. I believed in our values. I believe that nowhere in the world that we can have what we have here. A constitution and rights that are protected. And they're slowly destroying our constitution. They're slowly taking our rights, and they're slowly destroying what America is.
Not without a fight, right?
100%. You know, I'll tell you, ma'am, for the past 18 months that I've been dealing with what's going on with my brother. My conversation in front of the courthouse when I'm peacefully protesting talking on this bullhorn is I tell the sheriff, I'm not talking to you. You're corrupt. You have a badge in uniform, but you're corrupt. I'm communicating and protesting and talking to those individuals that are patriot to this country. Those individuals that went overseas, served, and are here with a badge and uniform. That are in our police department, that are in our FBI bureau, that are in these positions that have a badge and uniform. That are patriots to this country that understand once you violate Mustafa's rights and Constitution,
they're coming after yours next.
You're coming after everybody's next. You no longer have a Constitution. You no longer have rights. You no longer have what America. And this is what I'm communicating. And there are individuals in this country, and the reason America is going to continue to be America is because there are individuals that are patriots that will fight to keep our Constitution, that will fight to keep our rights. And yes, ma'am, it's a fight every day.
This is Elaine Jarvis with Omar Aljazairi. Thank you for joining us. Please support us here at Project Protect Inmate.
Thank you.
God bless you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.